After a week spent enjoying myself at the Hilton Wakatola village, I then moved south to Kona. This is where I spent a night here before moving on to Kauai for 3 days. As we zoom in on this 3D map of the Big Island, we can see that Kona, often referred to as Kailua Kona on maps, is in the shadow of 2 huge volcanoes. These act as barriers to the rain-bearing winds that sweep in from the east. This creates the phenomena that I mentioned earlier in the footage, where the Hilo side or east side of the Big Island is green, lush and wet, and the Kona side or west is dry and barren. Kona, with it being dry and sunny virtually all year round, is a haven for tourists seeking good weather and sunny beaches with surfing conditions, as we can see here from the footage at Kauai Bay in Kona. Here you can hear people really enjoying themselves, swimming, surfing, snorkeling and relaxing on the beach. For my first visit to Kona, I hired a rather good-looking car, as you'll see in its next clip. Yes, I hired a sports car, cabriolet, red. And here's the front view. Pretty good-looking car, don't you agree? This point gets its name from the 16th century powerful King Umi, who moved his court here from up north to Kona. This is where he is reputed to have landed, and hence the name. You have to be careful if you go further out to sea, because there have been reported shark attacks here, where sharks have mistaken people on surfboards for green turtles. And here's a green sea turtle floating on the surf. I've highlighted it so you'll be able to spot it, but as I zoom in now it disappears underneath the sea. I was not able to spot it again, so if you missed it you'll have to rewind the tape or the DVD. This is Kauai Pier at sunset. You can hear the birds singing in the background, and youths driving along in their 4-wheel pickups, polluting the atmosphere with their loud music. These are the shops along the seafront. They mostly cater for tourists or for surfing related sports. This is where I stayed whilst in Kona. I'm just filming it to show you what it's like. I'm now walking to the window, opening this door, and this is the view as I walked out of my bedroom window. A cruise ship docked in the bay further out at sea, the hotel swimming pool along with deck chairs and sun loungers, and that was the area where you got your breakfast, just behind there. This shot shows that the hotel was 3 stories. I of course was on the ground floor. At this particular time in the morning, which was 8 o'clock, the sea in the bay next to the hotel was very calm, but an hour later the sea was considerably rougher, as you can see in this clip, as the waves crash in. What a difference an hour makes in the conditions of the sea. These are crabs which are now sitting on top of the wall. They have climbed up from the sea below. And in that rock pool that I'm zooming in on now, I was told there was a meal by this couple. You can hear their voice now. And now they're throwing 2 pieces of bread. The eel jumps up and catches it and disappears underneath the surf. Did you see it? And there's the eel in the pool below. You can see it wriggling before the surf crashes in. Did you see that one? But if you didn't see it, don't worry, because we're going to have a slow motion action replay. Watch very carefully as the bread is thrown, because the eel will jump up and get it. And there's the bread being thrown now, and the eel grabs it. Now! Did you see it that time? I hope you saw it then, which was at 1/10 the normal speed. And now we're going to see the eel again. I zoom in, I magnify the picture by 2, and you can see the eel wriggling in the middle of the screen there. So, there was the eel, proof that it actually existed, but only of course when seen in slow motion. And now this crab is walking up to the top of the wall where it's going to sit and dry out. There's another crab. This has been zoomed in on, so it looks quite close, but actually it's far away. If you went anywhere near them, they run away quickly. This is ultra zoom on the crabs on the top of the wall, therefore I apologise for the shaky picture. And here's 2 birds fighting over a piece of bread. One is a cardinal, the other is, I haven't got a clue because I'm not a bird watcher. And these are, as the caption says, the streets of Kona. Very tourist orientated, because there's a shop with all gifts and souvenirs you can buy. There's the phone box that I used to phone home this particular day. The main street where you can go for rides in horse-drawn carriages. A church there in the background. This is the same part of the street that we saw a few moments ago where the birds were singing at twilight. This is now driving across the island on the dry leeward side. You can see this by the barren lunar landscape with a lack of lush green vegetation. Driving back to Kona, where I first stayed on the first night, and I was going to do quad biking ride. These are the quad biking headquarters behind this art shop. Notice the lush green vegetation because we're now on the windward or helo side of the island. And now this is one of my fellow quad bikers, having a practice before we headed out to the Waipio Valley. As you can see, it's a glorious day. You'll notice that this rider, who is American, has not got a helmet on. Helmets were optional on the ride. I chose to wear one, but the Americans didn't.
This one just flows to the ocean.
When we were on our quad bike ride, we stopped at various waterfalls, where our guide told us about Hawaiian history of the area. I can't remember really much about it, because it wasn't that interesting really. The purpose of the quad bike ride was to see the Waipio Valley from this lookout. I was lucky on this particular day because it was a very sunny day and hence the views were spectacular. Waipio means curving water in Hawaiian language. However, it is often referred to as the Valley of the Kings because in ancient times it was the political and religious centre of Hawaii and home to the highest chiefs. Waipio was a very sacred place and the site of a number of important temples. Here we are, back at the quad bike compound, and now it's my turn to navigate the really difficult quad bike practice course. As I ride round on this quad bike, you should notice my very tanned arms. This was the last day of my holiday, and the brownness of my arms shows how sunny it was whilst I was there.
Okay?
Yeah. This is another Waipio Valley lookout. However, this one is right on the coast, next to the cliffs, whilst the one with the quad bike ride was about 1 kilometre inland or half a mile. I'm now walking down the path to overlook the beach at the mouth of the Waipio Valley. This is a black sanded beach caused by the erosion of the black lava rock. And the last view of the Waipio Valley. I'm now driving through the streets of Kona back towards the airport before the flight home. This is where I stayed on my first night in Hawaii, and the hotel is coming up on your right now. So this is what it's like to drive through a typical Hawaiian town on the big island of Hawaii. Lots of wooden structures, very few ever made of brick. This is stopping at a point midway between the lush green wet side and the dry barren side. It suddenly changes from one vegetation to the other, and it was about this point that I stopped to have my last look at Hawaii before driving back to the airport. That white car in the background is my last hire car, a little bit different from the spectacular red sports car that I had earlier. This is what it's like to drive from the Wakatola village area back along the roads to Kona. And from Kona you can either fly to Kauai, which the film will concentrate on next, or of course you can fly back to the mainland and back to Great Britain. So this is the last footage you'll see of the big island, since now we're going to concentrate on the island of Kauai. And here I am in a plane taking off from Kona. I'm flying across the ocean past the islands of Maui and Molokai, briefly stopping in Honolulu, and then coming into land on the island of Kauai at its capital, Lilihu. As we look at this map of Kauai, we can see that it's shaped like a rounded compressed ball. It is 25 miles north to south and 33 miles east to west. We are now zooming in on the east side of the island to show you the location of Lilihu. This is where the plane landed. I then picked up my hire car at the airport and drove north to Kappa, where I was to stay for the next 3.5 days.